क्लैब्यमास्मगमः पार्थ नैतत्त्वैहुपपद्यते क्षुद्रं हृदय दौर्बल्यं त्यक्त्वा तिष्ठ परन्तप.
Many questions will arise in our mind when we hear somebody talk about Bhagavad Gita. What is so special about Bhagavad Gita? Some text which is over 5,000 years old, is it relevant today? Is it a Hindu religious scripture? Was Sri Krishna the right authority to talk about it when he was going around the trees with gopis in his childhood? Why there are so many commentaries on Gita? Why even Western scholars and philosophers were influenced by Gita? What authority do I have to speak on Gita when I am neither a scholar nor a spiritual master? My parents were fond of Bhagavad Gita. I did not know why. This was when I was 13 years old. They read Gita again and again whole life. During summer vacations, my father forced us siblings to learn verses in Bhagavad Gita, mainly 3 portions of it. Sthita Prajna Lakshan, meaning qualities of a steady mind, contained in the second part of second chapter. Then whole of chapter 6 and chapter 12. They deal with Sankhya Yoga, Yoga of knowledge, Aatmasamyama Yoga, Yoga of self-control, and Bhakti Yoga, Yoga of devotion. It was then very boring to get them by heart, the Sanskrit verse and also its meaning. He also tested us from time to time. After several years, I realized the importance of this knowledge. This knowledge, ideas and concepts were put into daily practice, making it easy to handle ups and downs of life. I found more meaning in these verses as I had Sanskrit as a subject in a senior secondary and undergraduate levels. When ideas are understood, applied and tested to be true and useful, then it is important to share with others this knowledge supported by experience. Hence, I am taking this liberty to talk on Bhagavad Gita. Why we cannot ignore this ultimate wisdom contained in the Gita is revealed in the quotes of important personalities, Indian and foreign. Mahatma Gandhi said, "When doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and when I see not one ray of light on the horizon, I turn to Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me, and I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. My life has been full of external tragedies, and if they had not left any visible and indelible effect on me, I owe it to the teachings of Bhagavad Gita." Swami Vivekananda says, the greatest incident of the Mahabharata war was the marvelous and immortal poem of the Gita, the Song Celestial. It is the popular scripture of India and the loftiest of all teachings. It consists of a dialogue held by Arjuna with Krishna just before the commencement of the fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. I would advise those of you who have not read this book to read it. If you want to know the source of American philosopher Emerson's inspiration, it is this book, the Gita. This little book is responsible for Concord movement and other broad movements in America. Albert Einstein said, "When I read the Bhagavad Gita and reflect about how God created this universe, everything else seems so superfluous." Another American philosopher, Henry David Thoreau, said, "In the morning, I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seems puny and trivial." Sri Krishna was an embodiment of his teaching. He was an embodiment of non-attachment throughout his life. He was in the midst of crisis after crisis, but remained totally undaunted. Gita has a universal message for mankind. Arjuna was representing whole of humanity, whose questions are all relevant today, and those solutions and teachings are also relevant today. Arjuna represents all of us, rather our own immature mind. Krishna represents our soul, our own inner conscience within. The two rows of army arranged in the battlefield represents our own positive and negative qualities fighting with each other within us since millions of years. Krishna is the empire, which is our spirit. The essence of Gita is that we would have known ourselves fully well only when we give primacy to spirit within us over body, mind, and intellect. Each reader of the Gita understood in his own way, depending on the predominant trait that he possessed himself. A votary of action felt Gita teaches Karma Yoga. A person whose disposition is towards intellect, Jnana Yoga was seen in Gita as the primary yoga, being professed by Sri Krishna. A person who is emotionally inclined found Gita laying emphasis on Bhakti Yoga. Interestingly, Sri Krishna treated all yogas equally, thus allowing people to choose what is best suited to their nature. Another interesting aspect is it is in the form of a dialogue. It is not one-sided. Sri Krishna does not believe in forcing anything on anybody. At the end, Sri Krishna asks Arjuna if he has understood the pros and cons of his teachings, and it is up to him to choose the path and be ready to face its consequences, sweet or bitter. Same is done by our own inner voice, that is the conscience, which is ever whispering into our ears, but we turn a deaf ear, and thus we face serious consequences very often. This being the introduction to the talk series on Bhagavad Gita that I am undertaking, I shall deal with each of the 18 chapters separately. While there are 700 verses, I will highlight very important verses in these chapters so that we are able to catch its essence and enjoy its fruits in our practical life. I am invoking the blessings of the Almighty for successful completion of this venture. Thank you.